and welcome to Math with Asna. In this lesson, we're going to talk about points, lines, and planes. So we're going to introduce these key terms of geometry. We'll learn what they are, the proper notation for each one, and how to identify them. Now, before we actually get into these geometry terms, I want to talk about the difference between a diagram and a notation. So a diagram is essentially a drawing. So you would see a drawing of a line, a segment, whatever it is you're talking about. The notation is the name. How would you name that segment or ray or line if you were writing about it or if you're using it in a problem? So it's kind of like the difference between where you're standing versus your name. Our first term today is a point. It's represented just by a single dot, and it will have a capital letter somewhere around it. Now this capital letter can be anywhere around that point, but it has to be in the general vicinity. So it wouldn't be like all the way over here, for example. When we notate it, we just use the capital letter. We don't put a point for the notation. Next one is a line. We represent this by a straight line with arrows. This is a collection of points that extends infinitely in opposite directions. Lines technically have an infinite number of points, but to name them, we only need 2. So you can choose any 2 points on the line. You would write those 2 points, remember, in capital letters, and then use the line notation right above it. For lines, you can go in either order, so I could write this as AB with that notation, or I can write it as BA. A plane is a flat surface that extends in all directions. So your piece of paper could be a part of a plane, or your desk, or your wall. To notate it, we would choose 3 points that are on the plane that are not on the same line. So any 3 points that are on the plane that are not on the same line. So for example, if I had those 3 points A, B, C, and when I would notate them by literally just writing plane A, B, C. Sometimes you'll also have a capital letter kind of off in the corner. That's another way to name it. You could just say plane X. So in this case, the capital letter is not a point, it's the name of the plane. Now the reason why I need these points to be non-collinear, meaning not on the same line, is because technically if I have a line, I can put an infinite number of planes through that line. So to make a unique plane, I have to choose points that are non-collinear. So collinear points are points that lie on the same line. Coplanar points, points that lie on the same plane, right? Collinear, same line. Coplanar, same plane. Our next is a line segment as well as endpoints. So a line segment is a part of a line, and I have to put points on the ends as my endpoints to show that this is not a line, and my line is not extending forever. And I would notate it saying AB. Notice how the notation does not have points at the end because I'm not drawing a picture here, I'm notating it. So you should not have little dots at the ends of these lines. Just like a line, I can go in either direction, so I can say AB or BA. A ray is a part of a line with one endpoint that goes infinitely in one direction. Now we have to be really particular with how we name a ray. So to name a ray, we start off with the endpoint, and then we choose any other point on this ray. So we have to have the endpoint, but the other point is up to you. So we would say A, that's my endpoint, and then B. And I would notate it with a little ray right above it. Now, if my ray was pointing in this direction, that would not change my notation. So this notation is always going to point to the right, even if your ray is pointing to the left. And the last one, opposite rays. Rays that share an endpoint and extend in opposite directions. So if I were to take this ray and extend it, what would that make? That would make a line. So opposite rays will always form a line. Let's go through it and identify these terms that we just discussed. So first of all is a point. Now we got lots of points here, so I'm just going to write some of them. We could say A, we could say G, we could say E, right? There's lots of other points. We'll just stick with those 3. A line. So I see 2 lines here. I see this line and I see this line. I'm just going to pick one of them. I'm going to go ahead and pick A E. And my notation is that line with arrows above it. Plane. So to name a plane, I need 3 non-collinear points, which means I can't choose these 3. So I have to choose 3 points that are not collinear. So I can say plane A, B, E. Be careful not to choose G or H because those technically are not on the plane. Collinear points, I can say A, P, E. Those are collinear. Coplanar, I already found coplanar points because I used them when I named my plane. So coplanar points could be A, B, E. A line segment, I've got lots of options here. I could use this line segment, this line segment, this one, this one, this one, and there's a couple more as well. I'm just going to go ahead and choose BP with a line above it, no dots at the end of that line. Endpoints. Well, endpoints would be points that do not have an arrow. So I'm looking at B as my endpoint. There's no arrow there. Array would be, for example, PA. I get my notation above there. So my endpoint is P and I'm going in that direction. I could also have done PE. Endpoint is P and I'm going in that direction. And the last one, opposite rays. So those are rays that form a line. So I could say EG and EH. All right, let's draw a line that's intersecting a ray at a point D. So I want to draw a line. Okay, there's a line. Intersecting a ray at point D. So I can draw a ray and it's intersecting at point D. Now there's lots of ways that you could have drawn this, so yours might not look like mine does, but as long as you're satisfying those requirements, that's what matters. Okay, we're going to draw a plane containing 3 non-collinear points. Okay, so draw your plane as best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I want 3 non-collinear points. So I just have to put 3 points there so that they're not on the same line. And I'm going to label them with capital letters. There you go, 3 non-collinear points. If you learned something, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.